wake up tomorrow, you have some fucking coffee, and you go into it bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, giving it all the attention and love it deserves.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Oh man, because I was gonna get like groceries and stuff. I'm not. If it actually does arrive tomorrow, now I'm gonna be caught with my pants down. Also, I totally forgot to start broadcasting this podcast. So no one's actually hearing us. Anyway, monkey pants.
Hey, did you know that we're doing the Geek Week in review? The part of the podcast where we talk about news of the week that was. Why news like, for example, Duncan Jones finally got Mute off the ground. It'll star one of the guys from True Blood, Alexander Skarsgård, and Paul Rudd. Apparently, it also has a small performance by Sam Rockwell of Moon fame.
I got some weird deja vu. It's like we already did this before.
It's like this sounds familiar. For those of y'all, longtime listeners of the Boy Howdy podcast, of course, know that Mute is Duncan Jones.
And he plays Mute.
The gentleman who did both Moon and Source Code and the upcoming World of Warcraft movie. This is his tribute to Blade Runner.
Yeah. He's managed to scrounge up a little bit of pre-production art and everything for the movie. Well, not even for the movie, just for the movie pitch, because he's been trying to get this movie off the ground. Even before Source Code, right after he was done with Moon, he came out and said, "I want my next movie to be this movie about this." It would be about a mute bartender in Berlin 40 years from now, who his wife or his girlfriend gets kidnapped, and he's trying to find her. And yeah, it's supposed to take place in like very Blade Runner version of Berlin. Like, yeah, it really is kind of like Blade Runner, how Blade Runner was like made in 1982, and that was supposed to be Los Angeles in 40 years.
Right.
So we'll see. Yeah, I'm glad to see he's finally got like financing and a cast put together for that. Yeah, it's supposed to be involving somehow Sam Rockwell, which it'll be interesting because he's always said that Mute is supposed to take place in the same universe as Moon. So it'll be, I don't know if you'll see like Sam Rockwell's character from Moon just like walking in the background in a shot or something like that.
Yeah, sure. I vaguely remember that he was going to take the Darren Aronofsky Noah route, where there was going to be a comic adaptation of his screenplay.
He announced like a year or two ago that like he and Dark Horse were in conjunction. They were just going to take the screenplay and instead turn it into a comic book, because like all these movies are starting off as comic books, and then they get opted into films. And I guess maybe they didn't. I don't know. I'm assuming they must have the comic book halfway done. I don't know if they're going to complete that and still publish that. No one said anything about the comic since this news about the movie came out, but we'll see what happens.
Interesting. But speaking of Duncan Jones, also this week there was BlizzardCon, the World of Warcraft convention, and they released a new trailer for Duncan Jones' Warcraft movie.
What'd you think?
Boy howdy, I was watching that, and the whole time I was thinking, this is not for me. I am not the demographic of this movie.
Yeah. As I remember talking about this when we talked about it last night, I did recognize one part in the trailer where there's like a bunch of little huts in the desert, which was like a place populated by cows in the real game for like the 3 months I played it. That's where I died for the last time with my character. I crossed the ocean and went to like World of Warcraft's version of Africa, which is populated by cow people, which are the people that you always said if you ever played World of Warcraft you would play as. Yeah. And they beat my ass.
Of Warcraft I played a Tauren.
Yeah, and I got off the boat as my little dwarf Juki, and they just beat my brains into the ground. And so it looks like you see a little bit of that in the background of one of the shots.
You see flecks of Juki on the earth.
People are already kind of tearing it apart because some of the CG in that trailer looked really underbaked. What are you gonna do? The movie still doesn't come out for like, is it like coming out next summer, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. And it seems like it's going to be like 75% CGI.
Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. At this point, you almost kind of wonder why they just don't get that. Was it the studio Blur who did? I think they do all the cinematics for the World of Warcraft games, and like they did all the cinematics and all the ad cinematics and stuff for like the Knights of the Old Republic RPG. Well, the new one. What are like they're known for like producing really good video. I don't know. Does Blizzard do its own in-house animation? I don't know.
I have no
But anyway,
clue.
that studio, Blur, is known for being super expensive. It costs like $1 million per minute of animation. Although, then again, if you're making a 90-minute movie, that's technically, if that only costs $90 million for Hollywood, that's actually kind of cheap. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because like it's very clear that New Line Cinema or whoever did this was like, we want in on that sweet Hobbit dollars.
Yeah.
But it does beg the question, when are they just gonna go the last mile and we just get a full CGI film? And I think, I don't know when we will, because CGI is so like just something that is you only have purely CGI films that are for kids.
Yeah,
and
aside from Beowulf, and that was a huge disaster.
Exactly, it made negative $80 billion, so that will never happen again. But yeah, you have to wonder when it'll finally push it over.
When your pitch is like, this could be like Game of Thrones, but Minions. That's not attractive to anybody.
Bill, you've read my pornographic fan fiction, all right?
But yeah, seriously, when a movie like this is already literally like 80% CGI, and enough that it makes the human character stick out like a sore thumb, because even it's Industrial Light and Magic. They're the best special effects company in the world, with like a $200 million budget.
Would you say they're still the best special effects company?
When it gives them a run for their money, it depends. It depends on the feature and how the CGI is being utilized, because I mean, as terrible as the Transformers movies are, those robots do, like, in terms of just the photorealistic rendering of those robots, the designs of the robots are also terrible. But, like, ILM still has their moments. What is definitely tickling their asshole with its tongue, but...
Wow. You've read that erotic fanfiction, too. Good.
Who would be the other contender if it's not ILM?
I fucking don't, Bill. You would know better than I would. Yeah, it's interesting. It's Laika. We got fucking Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings playing what seems like more or less the same character, banging on a half orc lady who fortunately is human enough to be fuckable. So
yeah, that's the green lady we were talking about yesterday. Yeah, that's the lady that
stop alluding the things we talked about yesterday.
I'm just saying,
no one listening knows this.
This is why I'd be the worst Doctor Who companion, because I would always be calling out like, "Didn't we do this shit last week, Doctor?" Boy, your TARDIS is always bigger on the every episode. I never get over it.
Don't let the scales fall from the eyes of our podcast listeners, my friend.
Yeah,
you gotta.
The sexy green lady, the pig lady. Is she half orc? Is that the idea?
That's my assumption. What else could she be?
Well, why she's you think she'd be a little more. You do see actual like ugly orc women in that trailer. It's not like all the orc ladies in that thing are like super hot.
Ugly, but... Bill, watch your human privilege.
I know, man. So I'm assuming she must be a known character, because the way Claire Hemmel online, who is a fantastic... Claire Hemmel is great. She should be designing all movies all the time, everywhere. She's one of the best artists online working. She's doing stuff for HBO now right now, but she has a really good head for character design and storytelling through character design, and I'm kind of amazed she is not like the head character designer for like Star Wars or something like that. Not to say that, you know, she's slumming at HBO, but I'm kind of surprised no one's picked her up. I'm surprised she's not doing like the character. Who's the character designer for like Dragon Age?
Matt Rhodes.
Yeah, she's that kind of quality. Not that she draws just like Matt Rhodes, but she's, I don't know. Anyway, so she was the first person to point out how disappointing it was that you have this character who, I guess, I looked her up and she is a known character in the World of Warcraft games, and it seems like her character has been represented in the games as being a little more animalistic, a little more bestial, but not as bad as like the pure-blooded orc females, where they are just kind of like, they're smaller pig people, really. But yeah, it's a little, she really is just a hot girl in green makeup with pig tusks. Although I'm kind of surprised they gave her the pig tusks, because even the pig tusks are pretty big. I'm kind of surprised they even went that far.
Right, straight up.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm kind of wondering how she's going to talk through, because like, imagine having two giant pig tusks and trying to talk through those, even as an actress on stage, would just be really rough. So yeah, it's a little, who knows.
I'm trying to decide how much of it I can lay on the feet of it just being a poorly edited trailer versus, you know, anything else. I don't know.
Did we talk about the new Star Wars trailer stuff? We must have earlier in the episode.
Yes, we did. But don't you remember, Bill? It was only moments ago.
Yeah, it was only 2 seconds ago, but I just feels like 24 hours ago. All the poutine I had for breakfast yesterday already wore off. My super energy is low.
Hey, Bill, did you know that the next bullet in the Geek Week in Review notes, quote, and I'm going to say this the way Bill has written it out because it will delight him. Open quote, fantastic breasts and where to find them. Close quotes.
And an arrow pointed at Annie's chest.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, so Entertainment Weekly this week released some photos from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the Harry Potter Extreme prequel about the adventures of...
Newt Scamander?
Don't tell me. Damn it, I just said don't tell me.
You said, as I was saying, is it pronounced that way, Newt Scamander, though?
buddy. I've only read it. It's Newt Scamander, the Ska Commander in my Harry Potter fanfiction.
Pick it up.
No,
that's a great Star Wars name, actually.
I admit, perhaps once in a different universe, when Bill had noted this, I had not seen anything, and perhaps in this universe,
I have now alternate timeline now, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's the art direction looks pretty fun. I'm pretty excited about seeing about wizarding deco Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's being directed by David Yates, the guy who directed the last 12 Harry Potter movies. That guy really did just kind of, after everyone else fell away, he was like, fuck it, I'll finish this goddamn fucking quadrilogy.
Can you blame him? I mean,
people are upset because it is, I guess, Newt Scamander. Jesus Christ. Whoever the fuck his name is, fucking Doctor Who. He looks like fucking Doctor Who. I guess he travels from England to 1920s New York, and I guess a big chunk of the game is supposed to take place in 1920s Harlem. And people are pointing out there doesn't seem to be any black people in this movie. Especially there's no, the main cast specifically is some lily white ass looking motherfuckers, especially for a movie that's supposed to take place largely in Harlem, I guess. And J.K. Rowling, who wrote the screenplay, she directly wrote the screenplay for this. She came out and said specifically that's actually supposed to be a story point because in 1920s American New York, it's the we didn't even talk about this. It's the nomage society that's racist and divided, whereas the magic using community, once we see that they are actually all integrated and stuff. Not that there's any black. That means that doesn't lead to any main minority characters actually joining the main cast at that point. But I guess I don't know. I guess we're going to see a magic cotton club. That's as diverse
as you can get.
So the new characters, it's Newt Scamander. There's supposed to be some chubby guy who's a nomage, a non-magic user, the American version of the Muggles. He works in a factory, and there's two sisters who are magic users, and that's kind of like the four main characters.
Man, we've talked on this very podcast about how my love of Harry Potter burned bright. And there was a moment in time when it meant the world to me, and how that moment has passed. That love was strong, but it lasted as long as the books did, and that's what it took to feed me. Because I'm not terribly interested per se in the world, though I do enjoy that. What drew me most to those books were those characters and those people and those relationships. And if they're going to get me back in a goddamn Harry Potter, the way you do it is with deco Harry Potter. That's the goddamn way you do it. I'm mad.
Yeah, I'm mad. Because I guess the American version of the Ministry of Magic is like the United States Congress of Magic Users or something like that. Their headquarters is located inside the Woolworths building in New York, and the inside is supposed to be like this huge cathedral of sunlight and like golden phoenixes and Art Deco stuff. It sounds really cool. There's a couple photo excerpts in the Entertainment Weekly article. But yeah, the movie looks really cool. We'll see what happens. Who knows? This movie doesn't come out for God knows how long, but
if there's anything that would drive me to a Harry Potter roleplay message board, it would be, who are you gonna be? 20s wizard. Who are you gonna be, Annie? You gonna be an American 20s wizard? Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
There's gonna be so many kind of confused steampunk people trying to like do this Harry Potter 1920s, like 1920s kind of steampunk thing where they don't really get the aesthetic, but like the hot topic version of 1920s.
Speaking of the 20s, here's my organic segue.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was hoping. Okay, I wanted to make sure we didn't talk. Okay, yeah.
100% organic and not at all forced, because it was actually an organic segue 24 hours ago, and now I'm forcing it because that would be terrible. God. This is organic. This last weekend, one thing I neglected to mention in our prior bits of our recording, that I actually caught a movie this weekend. Some dear friends of mine showed me Babyface, which is a movie that was made in 1929 with a young Barbara Stanwyck that was fascinating. It was filmed pre-Hays Code, and it feels it. It's a really interesting movie. It's really interesting to watch.
1929?
Yeah, 1929. Yeah. The original cut was lost to time because they re-edited it for release in a post-Hays Code world, and it was only found again in like the last 10 years.
I've never heard of this. Also, for a moment, I thought you were talking about Baby Cakes from the cartoon.
Yes. Of Brad Neely fame, which would be arguably a better segue given the Harry Potter connection there. But no, Babyface, highly recommend it to any of our listeners. Barbara Stanwyck is a dynamo to begin with, but Babyface is a movie about a young woman who named Lily Powers, who lives in Erie, Pittsburgh, in a coal mining town. She works with her father in the bar and is pretty transparently used by the men there for their pleasures and delight. But she is a pretty strong-willed person.
Oh, ever since she's 14, I'm just looking up the oof. Oh.
She doesn't take any shit from anybody. And there's this one gentleman in town who's a professor who introduces her to the works of Nietzsche, like you do, and basically tells her, it's like, here's the thing, kid. You do have power over men, and you should use it. You should not be anyone else's slave. You should be the master. So she's like, aha, yes, and goes to the big city, New York City, in fact, and proceeds to sleep her way to the top and transparently use people in order to gain power and gain wealth until she finally peaks and hits the top, has some misadventure. It's a fascinating movie to watch because had this movie been made today, it would have been very moralistic. It would have been like very looking down upon her and judging her.
Kicked in like just a year or two after this. Like this is people forget. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's astonishing is that by the end of the movie, like she learns the error of her ways, but she does not regret what she has done per se. She does not like give up. Like she still has done everything she has. She just realizes that love is worth something in a way that using people is not. It's astonishingly fair. And to be fair, a lot of this even-handedness can be laid at the feet of Barbara Stanwyck's performance because you really empathize with her, even as she's a terrible human.
Yeah.
But what's really fascinating is that so the movie is finished. The Hays Code comes out. They hastily edit the movie that instead of telling her about Nietzsche, the professor is reading to her from the Bible, because of course he is, and says to her, like, there is a wrong way to do things and there is a right way to do things. And you must always do the right way. And instead now the edit is like her going, the wrong way, eh? And the end of the movie is everything turns to ash in her mouth. And because of her life of sin, she winds up going back to Erie.
And on Wikipedia, there's a great excerpt comparing the original like kind of like the speech she gets about Nietzsche from this guy to what wound up in the finished film. And it really is like the original version is just saying, go out there, fuck men, use your power as much as you can. You know, you got to, take the reins, seize the day, all that shit. And in the finished version really is just like, you must use, you can do stuff, but don't manipulate anyone too much.
Yeah.
It's like, be clean, be strong, be defiant, and you will be a success. But it's very much like saying there's a right way and a wrong way to do this, but pick the right way, be moral, like use your power. But it's, oh wow, that's really
what's really interesting is that, as much as she is not a good person, you get the feeling like from right off that this is not a good world that she's in, and that there is no happy ending for her. And the only way she will not die destitute and alone is by doing what she does.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really good movie. I really enjoyed it. And honestly, there's some really good cinematography in it. The editing is very snappy for being almost 100 years old.
Face, huh? Yeah.
And it features a young John Wayne briefly. She is one of the men she clambers over on the way to the top.
How old is John Wayne, for Christ's sake?
Apparently, this is like one of his first movies.
Damn. Yeah, so this is 1933, which is like a year or two after like Dracula and Frankenstein, and just a couple years after like really kind of like the pervasive. Before just a couple years after like sound film became a thing. Yeah, there's a very narrow window between like the Jazz Singer and when the Hays Code kicked in. Oh man, that's really interesting. It sucks that this movie, if it had just come out just a couple months, maybe even earlier, could have been released unneutered and would have been a hell of a thing. I mean, it still sounds like a hell of a thing, but it's weird that like it got squished right between being where it could have existed in its fullest potential and being cut down by all the censorship. Because everyone thinks of old black and white movies as being super cheesy, and you forget there was a small window there at the dawn of sound film where shit could get a little rambunctious. For Halloween, I was watching a bunch of Universal horror movies, and on the Universal horror movie box set I have, there's a lot of talk about that with the original Mummy movie starring Boris Karloff. about how the main lady in that movie, she gets to run around, she gets to show her belly button. She's showing a lot of skin in that thing in ways that you wouldn't be able to show just a couple years ago because of this Hays Office code. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
can't.
over you.
That's fine.
I love
Tell
you.
me about this movie you haven't seen. That's fine. No, I'm being a dick. This movie is a hell of a thing, and it makes me really grateful that someone found on the shelf at the Library of Congress this unedited version of this film, because it's
so you didn't get to see the unedited version.
No, I did. I'm saying it was only discovered in like 2005.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no. According to Wikipedia, it was found in 2004. Oh, shit. Okay, super cool. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it was permanently edited and no one. Oh, shit, okay.
Well, see, that was the thing. For a long time, it was like the version that was in theaters was this one that was like
for
had
almost 100 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Go watch yourself a Babyface.
That's crazy. Okay.
Some good shit.
Baby case.
So anyway, that was my divergence under Geek Week in Review, which, believe it or not, we are having. Bill, did you know that Melissa Matheson passed away this week?
Yeah, super bummer. She was pretty young. Melissa Matheson, she wasn't super prolific, but she was involved in some of the biggest movies of all time. She wrote the script for E.T. the Extraterrestrial. She wrote The Black Stallion. And her most, she wrote the screenplay for the English translation of Ponyo. And her latest thing, she literally just finished the screenplay for Spielberg's version of the BFG, the Roald Dahl giant book. And yeah, she just died of cancer just earlier this week. And
that sucks.
And it kind of sucks because, I mean, she was a great writer in her own right, but because she was married to Harrison Ford for 20 years, that was kind of the big story. It's like ex-wife of Harrison Ford, now dead. Which, granted, like I said, she didn't write a ton, but what she wrote was pretty influential. She wrote the E.T., which was like the biggest hit film for like a decade and a half there. So from everything I've ever heard about her, everyone said she was a super sweetheart and very nice lady and super cool. And there's a reason why Harrison Ford married her. Not quite sure why they broke up, but I don't know. You know what? She must have had good taste because she got off that Harrison Ford train right before this pot smoking and earring phase. So I got to start with Melissa Matheson on that one. I don't know what happened between those two, but she had the good sense to go, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to, you go that way, Harrison. I'll go this way. So, but yeah.
This week, Zoe Quinn announced not only that she has a book deal, but that unpublished book has been optioned to be a feature film.
And sounds like Scarlett Johansson wants to play her in the movie.
Man, that's crazy.
This is all just worth it. Who knows if the movie's ever going to come out. The book sounds like it's scheduled to come out sometime next fall. But it's just worth it for all the Gamergate tears.
I was going to say, how do you make Gorbergort like compelling?
Yeah, and of course you already got Gamergate going out there being all like, well, we've driven her out of video games and into, now she has to run to Hollywood to like get like she's falling back, she's losing the fight, we're winning, and like, no, you didn't.
Yeah, you know what? That's what we think of everyone who has a movie deal.
Yeah. Well, it is unfortunate. Like a lot of the news coming out of this is not about Zoe Quinn as much as they're just calling this the Gamergate movie.
Sure.
It would be funny if it actually has nothing to do with Gamergate. It's just about her just talking about stuff, and it just turns into a movie just like Zoe Quinn, action girl. Dun, dun, dun.
Well, it'll be interesting to have a movie that's about the landscape of harassment that women will live in online right now.
We'll see. I'll be curious to see how they dramatize that and stuff. I mean, how do you, especially,
dude? It's juicy shit with all an insane X like.
No, but dramatizing stuff that takes place mostly online though.
That would be interesting. Well, you know what? Well, I vaguely remember you and I, sitting in these spots, my friend, not too long ago, going, "How can you make Facebook a movie? I don't understand."
You kind of make up a lot of stuff, a little bit. I'll say.
What a dramatization of events, making up things that's never happened before in Hollywood.
Depending on who they're talking to about this movie, though, they're gonna have some directors like, what if they go into the computer and she has to fight Gamergate, and it's Scarlett Johansson and she's in black leather again and she's doing karate against Gamergate, and Gamergate is a bunch of hackers that look like, Matrix. I could see.
You know what would be the perfect twist to all this?
Yeah,
is that Adam Baldwin is offered a role in this and takes it because his career is dying, and then does a 180 on everything he's ever done. That would be the perfect twist.
Adam Baldwin exists, even in terms of the Gamergate thing. Like I get what isn't he technically the guy who coined the term Gamergate?
He was the first man to say Gorbergort. Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I forgot he was even involved in any of this. Jesus Christ,
I'm sure he has to, but Zoe Quinn can't.
Again, in keeping with Zoe Quinn, we're not talking about Zoe Quinn. We're talking about everything around Zoe Quinn.
I can't wait until my mom once again calls me and asks me about this whole online harassment situation and if I'm okay. Looking real forward to that.
Was it Dennis from 30 Rock, the pager selling boyfriend? He needs to play Zoe Quinn's ex-boyfriend. Like you can commentate so much on this whole situation just by casting alone. Like, imagine like the people they could hire to play like Gamergate or played like 4chan, and oh my god, you could have a fucking field day with this. Man, if they got like shit, who do you get to make this movie?
Who do you get to make this movie? It's got to be someone who. So basically, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a story of violation and like a breaking of privacy.
I hate to say it. My choice would be whoever made Josie and the Pussycats. Not to make it into a comedy.
But
like a skewing of the whole situation. Not that Zoe Quinn needs to be skewed, but like I just imagine Gamergate as being portrayed as like du jour, just completely pathetic.
See, like, it is so hard for me to think of this as a joke. Just
I'm not
because
even thinking about it as a joke, but just it's hard for me to take Gamergate seriously. That's the thing. I'm like, you want to take the Zoe Quinn story part of it seriously.
See, that's the thing. It is really hard for me to think of the harassment of women on the internet as a joke.
And how do you like? Yeah, but like, it'll be interesting to see how somebody tries to dramatize. I just hope this doesn't turn into a bad Lifetime TV movie kind of thing where it's just like Zoe Quinn. The blah, 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 blah.
I'll be honest with you. The best thing that could have happened in this whole situation is that Zoe Quinn gets money to do the kind of good that she's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, kind of ideally, yeah. She just gets paid for the money, paid for the book, and for the optioning from Hollywood. And maybe the movie doesn't get made just because the chance for the movie could still be very terrible. I'm glad that this shit's happening to her, but like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
Bill, did you know that the National Fraternal Order of Police is threatening Tarantino with a quote-unquote surprise after he came out in support of Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, it sucks that, again, I hate to...
You know, I actually wanted to tell you to take this out because this isn't actually interesting, and I don't think we should give them any power by talking about it.
Okay. We lose the interesting when I had explained this was happening to you yesterday, the first time we recorded this. That was way more interesting than actually talking about it. Where you're like, really, what the hell's going on here? But yeah.
Also, genuinely, I think some asshole shouldn't get a platform. So, hey guys,
that's not like the right. It's just I just wanted to mention just again how fucking petty this is. I mean, it's the official union of police, and all they're wasting all this time and energy trying to threaten like a private civilian with a quote unquote. Yeah. Anyway, so what?
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it's like they're trying to start a boycott, but put it in the most threatening terms possible.
Yeah, like that is the weird thing to be like,
because he dared speak out against police brutality.
Yeah, almost like insinuating physical harm, which they're kind of proving the point everyone's making about them. It's just like the lack of self-awareness there. Anyway, go ahead.
Did you know that SeaWorld announced that it's ending killer whale shows in its San Diego park next spring in favor of a, quote, new orca experience with a strong conservational message, unquote. Goes to show that just one documentary what just one documentary can do to a big company.
Oh my god, Annie, I'm being struck by waves. I don't remember. I was talking about this before. Ooh, I think our temporal distortion is calming down a little bit.
We actually didn't talk about this before. Is that the joke you're making?
Yeah, exactly. This is a little bit of news that just broke today. And again, it's not really super interesting, excited the fact that it's a documentary.
That's pretty monumental.
Did you see the documentary?
No.
It's not good. There's a reason why SeaWorld's now having to come out and say, yeah, maybe we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Especially because there's a whole part where like the they have to catch the fish have to catch lawn darts and things go bad. It's just you don't even wonder.
Oh god.
Yeah, it's messed up. Poor killer whales. But yeah, no, especially San Diego is their biggest park, and for them to come out and say this is the home of Shamu, this is where the whole thing started. Now I kind of wonder what they're gonna do now, because they still say they're gonna have orcas, but I don't know. We'll see we'll see how they try to skew this. But that's really interesting, and especially because SeaWorld's been trying to play this off like, oh, that documentary, it's not doing anything else to us. No one's watching that anyway. Who cares? They've been like, their public face of this has been very much like, oh, we're fine. We're not worried about this at all. And now their investors have been kicking and screaming about this for like 2 years now, because the attendance at the parks keep on plummeting. If they keep on going without changing anything, no one's going to be in the park in a year. So
it's got to be weird when your whole business model is kind of politically incorrect. Like, what do
that's kind of like, how do you fix this? There's no fixing this.
It'd be like if Disney's theme park were 99% blackface. It's like, what do you do?
Or if like it was like chimps forced to dress like the Disney characters and had shock collars who got shocked if they weren't happy. Like, it's like it's reprehensible and it needs to end. But also, I feel like as someone within that, what do you do to reform that? You just turn SeaWorld into a zoo? I mean, really? Anything that zoos are kind of fucked up. But at least you don't put like the animals, like force them to like learn tricks and make them, you don't have these big shows where I don't know. And it's not so much that like the problems like that are uncovered in the documentary about what was it called? Blackfish? Was that the name of the documentary?
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't even so much like, oh my God, the terrible things they have to do to train these killer whales. It's just the fact that these killer whales don't belong in captivity. So unless you just ditch this killer whales altogether, which who knows, maybe technically that's what they're doing, because all they're saying is it's a new orca experience. I don't know. They just put up a big picture of Shamu and have people like, what do you mean? I don't know. I don't know. So, speaking of which, this is neither here or there. Disney is officially putting out the casting call for Star Wars extras for its Star Wars expansion of its theme parks. Just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah.
On the Star Wars.
Bill, are you gonna go try and be a full-time hut?
Oh, that'd be so easy. Oh, that'd be so great. I won't have to put on pants. You just
sit on a chaise lounge all day.
Oh yeah, I could just like eat food without having to worry about putting it fully in my mouth. That's essentially me going to be on Fallout Day. But yeah,
I was gonna say, Bill, you described the next week of my life.
Exactly. Yeah, Jimmy and Conley were especially joking about how like as Jimmy and Conley are beautiful people, but they were talking about as normies, though, as normal people, that's their closest chance to actually getting a job working at Disneyland as like the face talent would be at like a Star Wars park, because they would be looking for kind of goofy looking people. Granted, they look too normal. I was
gonna say Jimmy and Conley are not weird enough looking to get a job as a.
Whereas me, I probably could actually get a job as like some kind of six-titted fat man who shoots juice out of his tits or something like that, like at the cantina or something. Actually, you could just pay me blue. I'd be a pretty good Max Rebo. He's the blue elephant guy who plays keyboard at Jabba's palace.
You could be a Sarlacc pit operator.
Oh. Wait.
What's the name of wait, no, not Sarlacc pit. What's the fucking what's just Jabba's the creature that's in Jabba's pit?
Oh, Rancor Keeper. Yeah.
You'd be a good Rancor Keeper.
Because for a moment there, I thought you were suggesting I could actually be the Sarlacc and they just hang me upside down and take my pants off and just have just throw action figures into my butt.
Everybody, did you know that Disney is rumored to be retiring Slave Leia from most future Star Wars
speaking of Slave Leia. That's right. This part where I pretend I hate Slave Leia. Oh, no. God, I never want to see Slave Leia again for the rest of my life. This is a abomination.
It's the part of the show where you pretend that wasn't a moment of sexual awakening for tiny Bill Mudgeon.
I know, exactly. Yeah, I am not allowed to come out and be like, oh, Slave Leia, I never jerked off to that anyway. Well, when you jerk off when you're 8, nothing comes out. Does it count?
I only jerked off to Leia dressed as that weird alien face bounty hunter. So
yeah, that's the unfortunate thing, because Star Wars being an action movie, you'd think they would have at least a poster or two dressed up, like kind of like doing more action stuff. That's the unfortunate, because we did go into this at length yesterday. So what happened was J. Scott Campbell, what's his name? Is that the comic artist guy?
You got it.
He was asked why. I think he had drawn some kind of Star Wars poster. I think it was specifically Return of the Jedi themed or something like that. And the Leia he drew for the poster wasn't Slave Leia's Leia. And so someone on Twitter was like, "Whoa, that's weird." Which this kind of speaks as to why they're probably getting rid of Slave Leia altogether. Was the absence of Slave Leia on a Return of the Jedi poster raising questions is probably like, because that slave gear isn't the only thing she wears in that movie. So anyway, he came out and said, no, actually the missive has come down from Disney saying that they're pulling back on Slave Leia stuff on future merchandise. And some other artists came out and said they heard the same thing. It still remains to be seen if they're completely just kind of like retiring Slave Leia altogether, or if they're just kind of pulling back a bit, which they probably should be, because again, 9 times out of 10, if there's any kind of Princess Leia stuff in any kind of merchandise, it's usually Slave Leia. Sometimes it's, Leia in the white gown with like the crazy hairdo from the first movie, the cinnamon buns on her hair. But usually it's her half naked with a fucking collar around her neck. And of course, some people are getting upset because some dipshits are complaining that this is like the first move of Disney to Disney-fied Star Wars, because this is what you think Disney would do, is like trying to tamp down the sexual aspects. And it sounds like, no, it's just really just trying to like not lean so hard on the Slave Leia thing. There's more to that character other than the fact that she got fucking buck naked for 20 minutes in one of the movies. So to
quote the new Prime Minister Trudeau, it's 2015.
Yeah, seriously. And well, this you'd think for the hardcore Star Wars fans, this is also a boon too, because all the Slave Leia toys that you have just are going to shoot up in value if this turns out to be true. If not, then you still get your Slave Leia, but who gives a shit? It's fucking. You know who I want to see as Slave Leia? Magic Mike.
Bill, I think Channing Tatum would be down with that. You should send an email.
Yeah, you would just have like I guess you wouldn't need the top.
Bill, who would be the Han Solo to Channing Tatum's Slave Leia?
Who would make it good? Yeah, who would like, especially in the Magic Mike universe? Actually, I can kind of see that.
Have you seen Anna Kendrick's? Did you see how front ads?
You just broke up there, but if you're talking about what I think you're talking about, yeah, that slightly alarming commercial where everyone gets naked.
Well, where they all disappear and then reappear in the world of the.
So you saw that commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a moment there, it took me a moment to realize that everyone's like dying, enjoying the Force, I guess.
Yeah, it took me a while too to catch on that.
Because I'm like, are people being teleported out of their clothing? So it's just, I forgot Battlefront comes out a week from tomorrow too. So this is like kind of like the big launch commercial for the game, and it's like a 2-minute long commercial, and the whole first minute of the commercial is people just going about their normal lives, and suddenly they disappear out of their clothing and just leave their clothing behind, dirty undies and all, presumably. Kind of a horrifying thought if you think about it.
And then been raptured. It's what's going to happen to me in Fallout. There's just going to be a cloud of dust where I once was.
And so that you see after a minute of people being teleported is essentially they're being Obi-Wan Kenobi, where they've become immaterial and how they've now become more powerful and have joined the Force in Battlefield. So yeah, and then the last thing you see, it's Anna Kendrick. She's like making a sandwich in her nightie and bathrobe, and suddenly she just joins the Force, and she's turned like she's suddenly transported in the middle of Battlefield, and she's like shooting Darth Vader in the face or something like that.
It's kind of cute. Weird. It's just, you know what? It's a bad commercial, and it's a weird partnership, but it's kind of great to see the face, like the one known face in this shooter is a dame. It's a goofy
Anna Kendrick too, because she's nerdy enough too. It's not like she's like, not to say a girl can't pretend to like Star Wars for a commercial, but I could see her actually playing Battlefield. I don't know if she plays video games, but like Anna Kendrick's fucking hilarious. Man, were you the one telling me that she was dating Edgar Wright forever?
Yeah. Yeah,
not to say that she's validated being in a Star Wars commercial because she dated...
Bill, I can't make fun of you because I was thinking the same thing. I was just thinking she dated Edgar Wright. She likes his Star Wars.
Well, she has, yeah, exactly. Well, she got new cred. But yeah, Anna Kendrick's still one of the funniest Twitters out there, too. Man, if they had Natalie Morales... Oh, man. There's some, like...
That would
Not
be
even
it.
from a hot perspective, but oh man, did you see Ashley Birch just watched Edge of Tomorrow for the first time this week, and her tweets about wait, so have you still not seen Edge of Tomorrow?
No, I have. We've talked about it on this podcast.
Okay, she just had a sexual awakening with Emily Blunt in that movie, which is really funny to see on Twitter.
It's funny you should bring it up because I was just talking to someone about Edge of Tomorrow because friend of the podcast, Sid, was talking about how kind of distasteful it is that Fallout 4 is coming out right on the around Remembrance Day, which is the Canadian holiday in remembrance of the sacrifices of those we lost in World War One. And I was thinking,
Why
not
is
as
that
tacky,
distasteful?
because it's the preeminent war holiday. Like that's when they remember the dead lost in war.
I guess the game is predicated and take place in the
Anyway,
apocalypse after World War III.
It reminded me that they released Edge of Tomorrow on D-Day.
Did they?
To which they may go to hell forever. I really like that movie, but that is crass as fuck.
To be fair, most people from World War II are CP.
Nope. Go to hell.
Did they actually put that on D-Day?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because there was a whole beach landing in that movie and everything, too.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, friends, did you know that there was a lost 87-year-old Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoon found at the British Film Institute? Bill notes, the BFI needs to clean their room more often.
Yeah, so what happened was somebody who works at the BFI was watching a YouTube video about lost silent film cartoons. And one of the things mentioned was like this lost Oswald the Lucky Rabbit cartoon, which is, I guess, about skiing in the snow or something like that. And he was like, oh, hey, we got that. That's on the shelf like 2 aisles over from where I'm sitting. I should go tell these people that, no, it's not lost. We have it. We just haven't cataloged it yet. We haven't told anybody about it yet. So, yeah, they came out and said, oh, yeah, here's this lost bit of Disney paraphernalia. It's crazy
to think of these things, like, for example, like with Babyface, like these things that were culturally not insignificant that are pretty much almost lost to time, except someone finds them on a shelf.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's a good point. That really does tie into the Babyface thing.
It makes you wonder, like, what the hell else is out there just waiting for someone to find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, assuming that like these libraries and shit and card catalogs and stuff don't get shut down. Also, this Oswald cartoon, surprisingly erotic. Surprisingly, Oswald's just steamy.
Yeah, it's he's really skiing. He's really working those poles.
He sings a fucking
God. Like, why did I start this joke with you?
He sings an old-timey version of Cookie.
This is a nuclear battle. I cannot lose.
Back,
friends.
Like a lobster back tail.
Did you know? Pals, buddies, loved ones, were you aware that this was the 200th episode of the Boy Hattie podcast that you just listened to? 200 episodes. If we estimate that every episode is about 2 to 3 hours, which is not unreasonable, that is a shit ton of hours you have spent listening to the two of us.
400 hours, which is about the average length of a Fallout 4 playthrough. So technically, if you want to just listen to our entire archives during your Fallout 4 adventure, go ahead. Just don't listen to the radio. Just throw us on there.
Pals, thank you so much. Bill and I are greatly blessed by having, frankly, a small audience, but a kind one and a fascinating one. I can't think of many other creators who are able to say with some confidence, I've met 10 of our consumers, and they've all been swell people.
Oh yeah, no, everyone we've come into contact with as a result of us doing this podcast has been fantastic. And yeah, we don't have a lot of listeners, but this podcast has been totally justified in just getting in touch with you guys. Like fucking should we try to rattle off the list of everyone? Like,
well, I was gonna say thank y'all so much, because really, like, the number one reason why I do this podcast is just to make time to make sure I get to see my friend Bill every week and to get to chat with him and catch up with him. But it means so much that by having this touchstone for our friendship, that it's developed other friendships, some really rich friendships with people all over the world, with listeners who have been kind enough to let us into their lives even just a little bit. And it's been really, really gratifying. And I'm so, so grateful that you put up with our horse shit almost every week for 200 episodes.
We had someone come over from England and like make scones for us because of this podcast.
Yeah, so let's rattle off the names of a few. Yes, let's
address the peanut gallery directly.
Yeah, thank you, Maxwell Motley, for listening to our podcast and coming to our land to hang out with us.
Jacob, Hannah sent us a shitload of candy and tea from Australia.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah Groff, for that. Thank you to my dear friend Ainsley, who was a pal from small times that I got reacquainted with thanks to the Boy Howdy podcast.
Phil Theobald, who he listens, even though he doesn't talk to us too much directly, but he's always wisecracking to me after he listens to episodes on Twitter.
Two of my dearest friends in the world, Brian and Jasenia, I met through this podcast, and I'm grateful for that.
That is a name. She's
a badass superhero too.
Maybe that'll be who I name my Fallout character. Jasenia.
Shout out, dude. She's a superhero. You could certainly not do a lot better than Jasenia. Yeah. Shout out to my dear internet child Sid, the apple of my eye. I can't believe that
through this podcast, or did you guys know
they did? They did meet me through this podcast, and Sid friendship with Sid is one of the true pleasures.
Sid's smarter than I am, and I'm really shocked that she actually tuned in and listened in long enough to actually strike up a friendship with you.
They sure did.
Yeah, just everybody. Like if we happen to be forgetting anybody, it's because time travel fucks you up.
Yeah, please know that it is not a lack of genuine emotion. And to all of our friends, feel free to reach out to us. In all honesty, pals, feel free to reach out to us at Boy Howdy Podcast, or even howdy at boyhowdypodcast.org, just so that we can say thank you for listening. Dear beloved listener Mira by Night, thank you so much for taking
Mira
the time.
by Night. Yeah, what am I talking about? She's a pillar in our community. Oh my god.
Really, having y'all reach out to us and let us know that you're listening means the world.
And I still owe 2/3 of you guys that we just mentioned Sixth Gun books from our contest 2 years ago. I have them. They're still sitting in my. I'm looking at them right now. I just have them put them in the mail.
Bill, and I'm sure 200 episodes from now, you will see the exact same thing. So let's just save that recording and reuse it.
I can't let the 300th episode pass without having finally mailed those fucking things out. I have to get. I don't even know. Anyway. So yeah,
pals. This was, as always, the Boy Howdy Podcast. We're at Boy Howdy Podcast on Twitter. Howdy at boyhowdypodcast.com is our website. Boyhowdypodcast.com is our website in general. This is our 200th episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend your precious hours with us. We love you all.
Yeah, we'll see you guys in the wasteland.
Exactly. I'm being schmaltzy and affectionate because tomorrow I'm getting Fallout and you will all be dead to me.
And actually, speaking of which, UPS just emailed me directly to tell me that my Fallout package has been bumped up to officially tomorrow. Fucking, oh my god, the thunderclaps. Did you see Griffin McElroy did a video? So I didn't realize.
I haven't watched any of this. I don't want to know anything. No,
I guess this was in the original release trailer, right? That your butler robot has been programmed with over 1,000 names.
Yeah.
So depending on your character name, he can actually voiced directly address you. Like if you type in Bob, he'll say, "Hello, Bob." And so Griffin McElroy just put in he just tried to test that to see what names are in there. So there are some names in there you wouldn't expect would be in there, and some Barbara is not in there, but Boobies is. So
to be fair, Boobies is much more statistically likely than Barbara is.
So you might want to check that out just to see what'd you see your name. You're gonna name your character.
Rosa Estevez.
I would assume Rosa's gonna be in there. Yeah, I know Mike's gonna be in there if I decide to do the Mike Lane thing, but. Oh no! I'm just saying you might want to double check that in case you want something, like fuckface or something like that. You might want to change. Oh man, tomorrow! Oh my god, next week's podcast.
We need to stop talking so I can go hyperventilate about Fallout 4. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
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 Choo choo. Okay, I stopped, and thank you. No one's watching us online, but we love you guys anyway. Just in case you're watching from the archives, after we're both dead.